So grouping involves creating a view model. So probably the best way for you guys to understand this is for us just to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually create a new folder. And we are going to call it view models. And then we're going to add a class to it. And we're going to call it enrollment date group. And I do have some code for you. There's a link in the lecture notes. We're just going to copy this and paste it right in. So you can see that we have a class enrollment date group. So we're using a data type, enrollment date. And then we have a property called student count. And the idea behind this is it's going to break down by date how many students we have enrolled. Okay, so that is kind of the idea. And so let's save and build this. And then we need to go to our home controller because we're going to be adding this to our About page. And that is in our home controller. So let's go into the home controller. And so now the home controller does need to pull in our models. So at the top, we need using Contasso University. .dal. And then we also want it to pull in Contasso University .viewmodels, those two folders. And let's see, we have at this point public class home controller derived from controller. And below that, oops, actually below the opening curly, above index, we're going to create a little private school context DB equals new school context. So we're basically creating a little class variable. And it's school context DB is what we've created. And because it's private, we can only use it internally. And below our index method, we're going to add a new little action method called enrollment stats. Okay, so this is iQueryable. We're using our enrollment date group, which is part of our view model. And we're going to look in our student table. We're going to group our students by enrollment date into a date group. And then you can see that we are specifying that the enrollment date kind of act as a key. And then we're also specifying that we want a count, basically when the group changes. And this is all LINQ code. Okay, so basically what it's doing is it's retrieving all the records. It is then grouping by date and then doing a count when the date changes. And then you can see that we are sending our data to our view using toList. Okay, and data is the name that we use here that's storing the results from this. Now, does it have to be called data? And we could have called it student, we could have been called it enrollment or whatever you want. Now, because we are using database resources here, we do need to add the depose method at the bottom. So below everything, we are adding depose. And remember that frees up the database. So at this point, we should be done with our home controller. Okay, and again, all we've done is created a little action method so that we can retrieve all of our students, group them by enrollment date, and then when that date changes, it counts how many rows are in that group, and it gives us that count. So at this point, we need an enrollment stats view. So we're going to right click on this, and we're going to add a view. Enrollment stats is fine, and empty without model is fine. We're going to go ahead and click add. And I do have some code for you that you can copy and paste. So let me pull this over here. Here is our code. So I'm going to copy this. Oop, wrong code. I'll try here. It's further on down. There it is. Let's copy that. And we're going to paste right over this. So here you can see that we are using enrollment date group from viewmodel. And then we've got a table, and we just kind of hard code enrollment date and students. And then we get into this for each, where we're using item in model. And we've got item.enrollment date and item.student count. Okay, where is it getting this from? It's getting this from here. And in the controller, we retrieved all of the student records. We had it group by enrollment date and give us a count. So that's how these are getting filled in. Now let's save. Let's run a little build. And then the last thing we're going to do is add this to our layout. And I'm going to add it to the end here. So I'm just going to copy this last one. And so we're going to call it enrollment statistics. And enrollment stats was the action method. And that was in our home controller. Making sure I didn't do any typos. And let me save, run a build, and then let me run the app. Okay, so you can see that we've got our different dates and it is giving us a breakdown of the students. And I would hope in real life that we had way more students than this because our little school would not survive. But that gives you a little bit more. And if you would like to know more about grouping, I did include a little link here. Okay, so if you want to know more about doing grouping using link, this explains in more detail how you would go about doing that.